In 2021, I started uploading my first ever experience with the Metal Gear Solid game. On February 19th, 2021, I uploaded my whole first playthrough of Metal Gear Solid 1 from the PlayStation 1 edition. And I just, honestly, one day, I got incredibly bored. And this was during COVID, so everything was locked down still. I think I started it in July or August. Everything was locked down. There was no like you weren't doing anything. So my mindset went to I'm going to play a franchise that I've never played before, never touched before, but being incredibly curious about, and that was Metal Gear Solid. I started playing the game in 2020, but I didn't upload it until 2021. So it has been 4 years of you guys seeing it. However, I've been experiencing this franchise for almost 5 years now, and I knew I wanted to have some form of conclusion to the franchise in a way. I wanted to have one video where I just discuss it all. I was trying to write a script for it, but I couldn't find the right way to describe it in like a script form. So I thought I will do my best to get all my thoughts out in a video where I do a tier list on it, and I'll rank my favorite and my least favorite Metal Gear Solid games, probably describing each and every one of them, of course. I just do want to say thank you to everyone who has supported the series and the franchise. In terms of my channel, this has and probably will be the biggest franchise that I've played on the channel. It's like biggest franchise for me in terms of series. I have never had this amount of support on a series before. It was insane, and the fact is that it was so popular. My videos, like my reactions to the endings and like my first playthroughs or like my first episodes of some of the games are some of my most viewed videos, and I have not been spoiled once. Not a single soul has spoiled the game or said anything that ruined my experience. I'm genuinely shocked at how pleasant the Metal Gear Solid community was, and it was such an incredible experience because of it. I was worried. I was genuinely worried that I would have a really bad experience with the community, just because I had this weird fear. I don't know why. I just have a really big fear going into a new community when the franchise has been existing for so long. It's a big fear of mine. I need to do it more often. But the Metal Gear Solid community has genuinely been one of the most supportive, incredible communities. Some of you will dip. I understand that. You do you. But I just want to say thank you for supporting. Let's just jump into the tier list. This is what we have here. I've organized these games. These three I have not played. I think this is the PSP game that I have not played. I didn't want guys, I'll be so honest, I didn't want to figure out the emulator for it. I didn't want to figure out the emulator because I can't play it on a PSP. I need to figure out the emulator. So maybe one day I'll play it. I have no intentions of playing Metal Gear Survive. The game looks ass, and that's all I'll say. And I've not played Metal Gear 2 yet, purely based on my opinions of Metal Gear 1. So, let's start with Metal Gear 1. So you guys are probably shocked. There's not a single playthrough of this game on my channel. There was meant to be. I sat one day, I was like, I need to do this for the channel before I progress with any of the games. Like, I'd done Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, and I was like, before I do 3, I want to do 1, like the first one, and I did. And my PC didn't tell me I ran out of storage, and I lost all of it. It was like a whole day. I spent a whole day playing this game for like 6 hours, 7 hours, I think, and I lost all of it. So, I do remember the game. I remember needing a manual. I'll fully admit to this. I needed a manual to finish this game or to even play this game. I had no idea what to do. And I kind of severely disliked that. It felt really outdated. It felt genuinely difficult just for the sake of being difficult, but that was the genre of those games, I think. A lot of those games that released back then, when that game released, Can you tell me when it is editing me? Hey, it's editing me. So Metal Gear came out around the same time that Contra came out, and Castlevania, and like the original Legend of Zelda, all very difficult games for the design of it. If you disagree with me, you can disagree with me. However, these games are legitimately designed to be difficult. So, yeah, I was kind of correct. A lot of the games back then were always like so difficult. This game included. This was incredibly difficult, and I did need a manual to figure out what the hell was going on. What was I meant to do? I believe I absolutely 100% used save state so that I could go back whenever I messed up. That was abused to all hell because this game was brutal, and I didn't enjoy it purely because I had to use manual. I got to a point of the game where I was like, I think I was 2 or 3 hours in, and I was just standing there like, what am I meant to do? And I couldn't figure. I was like looping the map. I was getting killed a lot, and I got so frustrated. I'm like, what is happening? I need a manual. This is ridiculous. And I caved. I got a manual. And then I was like, that's so stupid. How was I meant to know that I was meant to blow up that wall in that secret room and that would progress me? Stupid. Didn't like it. I feel that it's cute, it's a charming game, and it's got a great story for when it released. However, it's very outdated, and I did not have a good experience with it as a first time player. I got agitated, and by the end of it, I'm just like, okay, I don't want to play Metal Gear 2. Please don't make me play Metal Gear 2. And then my footage lost, so I was like, well, there's no point in me playing Metal Gear 2 if I don't have Metal Gear 1. That was my mindset. Maybe one day I will do Metal Gear 2 on the channel as a little bonus, but Metal Gear 1 definitely kind of demotivated me from that. I'm sorry if you guys have like a great emotional attachment to this game. I just don't care for it, but that's maybe just because I personally was not raised with this game and I didn't play it on launch and I don't have a lot of these memories for it. I just remember not liking a lot of it. I do love the story. I say love. I do really enjoy the story, and knowing what I know in Metal Gear Solid 5, I'm like, wow, that's so wild that Metal Gear Solid 5 kind of connects it in a way. Metal Gear Solid 5 is wild. I have to discuss it because I do have thoughts on the game itself. But yeah, I love the connections. But when you go into that, it must have been wild playing that game for the first time, being like, what's happening? And for that reason alone, I'm going to put it at a D. I don't think it's a complete bombshell. I love this. Like, I really enjoyed the story. The soundtrack's iconic. I just don't enjoy the gameplay, and I hated the fact that I had to use a manual. I probably didn't have to use a manual, but I was so lost on what was happening. Up next is my first true experience with Metal Gear Solid franchise. Metal Gear Solid 1. So I recently did watch my first playthrough of this game, and I still remember a lot of it. Even without watching it, I still remember a lot of it. I absolutely love Sniper Wolf. I love her fight specifically. Like, that is such a cool fight. And the ending to the fight and her storyline and her arc is just so... It stuck with me. I'm just like, this is so incredible. The fact that this, like, a PlayStation 1 game. I never knew a PlayStation 1 game could have this much of an incredible story. The PlayStation 1 games that I played as a kid were Resident Evil. I played a little bit of Final Fantasy 7, but I didn't play that as a kid. I got into that later on. But I didn't play a lot of Final Fantasy as a kid, so my experience of PlayStation 1 was specifically like Resident Evil and Crash Bandicoot. So yeah, I had like Mortal Kombat as well, and all these games, and I didn't think that a PS1 game could have this story. I was shocked playing it, and I'm like, this is a PlayStation 1 game, and I missed out on it. I was a little kid, of course. I wasn't born when PlayStation 1 came out, however, I grew up on all the technology of it, so I still have a lot of the memories of a PlayStation 1, and like all those older consoles. I'm fully aware I was born in 2001, and would have probably had a more modern experience, however, I still have memories of these old consoles. Guys, I just didn't think PlayStation had it in them to release a game or have a game of this quality. And Metal Gear Solid is definitely that quality. I also remember the big fight at the end. Pissed me off. I was angry. I've not forgotten that fight. Sure, some men were shirtless and they're fighting in a fire and all that. But what's my enjoyment out of it? They're pixels. And this was a brutal fight. The whole game, I had been I'd been learning how to stealth, how to shoot, and not a single thought went into my mind of, maybe I'll need some QCQ. CQC? Close Quarters Combat. CQC. I was like, not a single thought. Just keep shooting everyone. You don't need to fight anything. No. The whole final fight bit. Well, except from fighting Metal Gear itself, the whole final fight bit. It was insane. This game was definitely an experience for me as well. I have never played a stealth game before in my life. I've dabbled in Hitman, I've dabbled in a few stealth games, but I always came to the conclusion that stealth games were not for me, and I don't have the patience for it. And Metal Gear Solid 1 was definitely very, very difficult. I will be fully honest, I almost gave up at that big tower where you have to go up that spiral staircase and then you have to jump down again and avoid a helicopter. It was at that point in the game where I was severely struggling, and I was sitting thinking to myself, it's like, if this is going to be the whole franchise, is this worth it for me? Because I'm not the best player. I'm not, like, I'll fully admit that Metal Gear Solid 1 playthrough is rough at times because I am awful at stealth. I don't know how to hide, and I'm not patient enough to wait for them to turn the corner. I just run. And that was what I was used to, and it was incredibly difficult to rewire my brain to make sure I wasn't doing that. But man, it was actually so worth it to bite my tongue and say, no, I'm going to see the end of this game. I bought it. I have to see it through. I have to see through the end now. But it was so difficult to play, but I was enjoying it. If I wasn't enjoying it, I would have just put it down immediately. But it was so difficult that I was like, I was still invested in the story because of how incredible the story was. I loved little Otacon who pissed himself in the locker. I loved seeing him get a backbone. I loved his character development. It's so much better than his father. And I just really enjoyed a lot of the sequences and a lot of the characters in this game as well. I loved the codex. I loved having a lot of conversations with characters, and then the plot twist. You know, like, I loved the fact that throughout the game you're talking to Master Miller, Kaz Miller, and it turns out man's dead. He's been dead the whole game, and you've been talking to the enemy, and they've been gaslighting you, and I think you were talking to, like, Liquid Snake, if I remember correctly. It was Liquid. But, like, you're chatting to him the whole game. And then Naomi Hunter, he's also on the other side, but oh my god, the betrayal of it all, the drama in a game like this is shocking to me. Definitely shocking. And you know, the characters' names. Who knew a character would be called Deep Throat? Wild experience. The torture sequence was torture to me. That was brutal and painful, and I still haven't forgotten it because of how painful it was. Having to spam that control, I thought I was gonna die. I thought I could see the light. I won't lie. My wrist was getting my hand was getting a workout. It was getting cramped up, and I felt like I was the one that was under the torture sequence. Obviously, I wish I had experienced it on the actual PlayStation 1 software, because some things didn't translate well into PlayStation 3. When I was playing it, obviously when Psycho Mantis wanted to read my mind, he didn't have any games to read. I didn't have any games installed on like my PlayStation 3 in terms of that PlayStation 1 emulator. But I'd imagine if I had a PlayStation 1, I'd have like Resident Evil and Crash Bandicoot and all those games. I just didn't have that, so I didn't get the full Psycho Mantis experience. And then also vibrating my controller. My PlayStation 3 controller didn't have a vibration motor. So he was just like, I'm moving your controller. And I don't think it worked. I have to double check, but I don't think it worked. Because I'm just sitting there like, you sure are. Yeah. And then one thing I did like was having to change the slot, but I think that's just the software that does it for you anyway. It wasn't like the actual feeling of plugging it out and then plugging it into. There was some things that I wish I experienced on the PlayStation 1 software itself, but there's only so little you can do. It was still great. Psycho Mantis was such a great fight, and he still messed with me. He turned off my TV. If I had an old TV, that'd be fun, but he turned off my TV, and I was just Psycho Mantis was so great. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Obviously, Ocelot, but that's the torture sequence, and Liquid Snake, just all of it. And then me being a big, massive hater towards that little shit of a character, I was a massive hater towards fucking Roy Campbell, whose whole mission was to fuck me over. I was, guys, I cannot tell you. I can't tell you. You probably saw it in my playthrough. I was so mad at that man because he wouldn't tell me anything. And he wouldn't be honest about anything. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, Roy, I'm meant to be on your side. And you're the biggest backstabber of them all. And Master Miller just died. And I still hate you more. So, all in all, Metal Gear Solid 1, incredible experience. For a first time play, it was incredibly difficult. I almost gave up and I didn't, and I'm so thankful. I'm honestly, just purely because of how iconic it is, I'm going to have to put it in an A. I would say A, but I don't think an A is good enough for it. I think S is like the best outcome for it. I think it's an S tier game. It's one of my favorites. I think it's in my top 3, my top 2 even. I don't think anything can beat that and something else. But I think we all know what my number 1 is. Metal Gear Solid 2. This, I went into it knowing nothing. And then we're playing as some man named Raiden, who gets his ass out in the game. I didn't complain about that, of course. This was like wild, because in the start of the game, you're playing as Snake. And you're like, yeah, Snake's back! And then the whole game you're playing as Raiden, which my biggest issue with Raiden throughout the whole game is that he's just a whiny little shit. He just whines all the time. And sure, that is me, I whine. But then you've got Raiden, who is even worse than me. Or sorry, Jack. His name's Jack, as we know. Jack is so whiny, and he just complains all the time. But I still actually really enjoyed his character. I still really enjoyed playing as him. It felt great to get to know another character, and I really loved the whole illusion of, hey, you're not playing a Snake. I'll see you later. I know that was a thing that people had an issue with when the game first came out, because the trailers misled everyone. It's like you're playing a Snake again, just for the whole game to be that. I personally don't mind, but obviously I wasn't there to experience the trailers. I was only there to play the game. Like, what, 20 years after it came out? Like, there were actually a bunch of really iconic characters, because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. You had Command Vamp, the big gun. You had Fortune. I loved that. She was incredible. I loved Fortune so much. What an iconic character. That I just think she was an incredible character. She still stuck with me. The fact that she also kind of, I remember, if I'm remembering correctly, she kind of fought with us as well. at the end, it was something about luck. I'm sure it was end fight. You're face to face with. I think it was you're fighting Ocelot. He's in Metal Gear, and he's firing at you, and he's like, "Your luck's ran out," and in Fortune, he's just like, "No, all the rocket, everything is blasting off of her, and just everyone behind her is just not getting hit." And she was so incredibly badass, and everyone's story as well for why they're there is so tragic. Like Bamp, Fat Matt, like everyone kind of had a story of why they were there, and man, man, it's editing me jumping in here because I didn't do a very good job at discussing anything after this point because I came to the conclusion I didn't remember a lot. I think I came to the conclusion I didn't remember a lot purely because I was really confused at the end of the game. That's the thing. Like, this game is great, but I was definitely, I don't know why I'm wearing a headset. I was definitely really confused at the end of the game. But we'll save that for a little bit. So all the bosses, of course, were incredibly iconic. I did, like, they were great. Well, not incredibly iconic, sorry. They were great. I enjoyed a lot of these bosses. Obviously the main plot of Metal Gear Solid 2 is introducing the Patriot, which is developed upon in Metal Gear Solid 3. So it kind of is, it's a sequel and it introduces an idea that's in a prequel. So it introduces the Patriots, which are a key part of Metal Gear Solid. They're a key part of, I believe it's 2, 3. Well, they're a key part of the whole game, but specifically 2, 3, and 4. That's typically when they're introduced. And the Patriots, obviously, at the end of the game, it essentially exposed that you have been lied to by these Patriots. They told you to do a mission, but by the end of the game, it's just revealed that they're AI and they're not real, and you're speaking to these literal, like, fake people. They're not real. That's basically the whole plot of that. You're fighting against Solid Snake, and it's just like he kind of revealed the whole thing. Like Solidus, I think Solidus was a Patriot. He was a member of the Patriot. And he was wanting to destroy the Patriots. However, he was killed by the Patriots, who I'm assuming they use Jack as like an idea of like, hey, we can build this super soldier. That's exactly what they do. It's like, this is a super soldier that we can build, and he's a model soldier. He'll follow every command and do his mission, and he'll take you out and kill you. And that's what Solidus wanted to kind of destroy. He was against the Patriots, which is so valid because fuck the Patriots. So that's introduced to us. I remember Solidus fight. I did not enjoy Solidus fight. I hated it. It was a sword fight on the roof, I believe, and when you finish the fight, I was expecting something else, and then the game ends, and I'm sitting here like, the game just ended, but I wanted more. So like the game's fine, but it gets to the point where I'm sitting here like, oh, I kind of just wanted a bit more from that, and didn't provide me anything. So like by the end of it, you are kind of wanting to feel you kind of feel a little bit, well, knowing everything that's happened with Patriots, you kind of feel a little bit for Solidus. However, he's still awful. Solidus is not a victim in this at all. He has killed several people. Like, Solidus is not a victim in this whole storyline because he shot Olga. He's killed Olga. There's been, I believe he had child soldiers. Solidus is not an innocent man, and he is a villain at the end of the day. So you don't feel too sympathetic for him, but like there is a way of like, oh, he was kind of, he had like similar beliefs and mindsets, but he was like manipulated, and he was just a pawn. And at the end of the day, he was just a pawn in the system to the Patriot, and yeah. but still, he is still a villain, albeit a clone, but a villain still. So that was what I thought of the story, at least. Like, I was a little bit sympathetic towards all this, but at the end of the day, he was knowing all this stuff. He played the part. Obviously the boss fight, Vamp comes back and forth, but he is a good introduction to this game. I did enjoy his fight. The worst, oh my gosh, before his fight, I think it was when you're saving Huey's, or Huey's, no, it's not Huey's, Emmerich's sister. And you have to do the mini game. It's not like I say mini game. You have to snipe and you have to protect her crossing the waters. Worst experience ever. Worst experience ever. Do not do that. I didn't know I had to take a pill, calm down my breathing. I was stuck there for a while. And then obviously she dies. So it's kind of like oh, that's sad, I guess. Poor Emmerich. Emmerich just goes through it in these games. All because of his stupid father. Father ruins everything for us. And we have Fortune, who is incredibly badass, who saves us from Metal Gear when Ocelot's shooting missiles at us, and then she's obviously uses the last for luck to save us. He's such an incredible character. I love Fortune so much. Loved Fortune. I think Fat Man was there. I completely forgot what Fat Man's backstory was. I'll be completely honest. I think I said he was iconic in a little few seconds ago, but he was rollerblading and he had bombs. But I completely didn't. I forgot the purpose of what Fat Man was there for, and I still don't know the purpose. I should have researched it, sure, but yeah. So yeah, that is basically my opinions on Metal Gear Solid 2. It's not my most memorable experience, so I'm still having a little bit of issues, and I don't want to research too much because at the end of the day, I've made this video because I want to have more of just hey, this is my opinion on the games from memory and what I thought of them as first impression as I can in my rankings. But I genuinely think Metal Gear Solid 2 has some great gameplay. It's a good graphics boost as well. I loved it. The story is obviously more intense, albeit a little bit more confusing, a little bit more complex. And at the end of it, I kind of was wanting more. I wanted a bit of a more satisfactory ending. Wanted a more pleasing ending, essentially. But the end sequence was incredible, having to go through the system that's essentially shutting down on you and crumbling and making you believe that you have a game over, and you have all because you have a massive sword. It's great, guys. The end section is great. I love the method they use to kind of confuse the player. But I think honestly, this game is just a B tier for me. I do enjoy it a lot, but it is simply a bit of a B tier. I enjoy what the game has to offer, but it's not my most memorable experience. And there is much better games in the franchise, and there's a lot worse games in the franchise we'll talk about soon. But yeah, I'll give the game a B tier. I hope you guys, I don't know, if you have thoughts on this one, let me know, but this is my opinion on Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Guys, this game legit, it changed my mindset on the Metal Gear Solid franchise. I was casually playing it, I was casually invested, but because I was 2 games down, I was like, I guess I'll play the third one, and I'll play the rest of them now that I've gotten into the franchise and everyone is expecting it. And while it did take me a little bit to get into into this game, it took me, I think, a good few months to finish, but I recorded it in August, and then I had a few months break, and then I recorded another episode in October, and then I had a break, and then December I fully just sat through and finished it. Guys, this game is so good. This, I'll just say it here, is the best and is my favorite Metal Gear Solid game. I think everyone would have expected that. Nothing is going to beat this game and my standards and my expectations. My standards for the franchise We're so high after this. It has such an incredible story. Everything makes sense, but it's so... Oh, guys, it's so great. It's one of my favorite. I actually remember it so well. All the characters. You've got Eva, of course. Um, you've got Ocelot. You've got oh my god, you've got Roy before he was a dick. And then obviously you've got the boss, where I thought in the whole franchise that I was the boss, but no. Find out who the boss is in this game, and it's incredible. You have a lot of the boss fights as well. I remember the end because he was the one with the parrot and he has a weird eye. And I actually did enjoy that. I liked him a lot. I'm trying to remember who. I'm sure the fear was the fear the spider like guy, because you had the end, which was this old man, the fear, which was the spider. I say the spider. He was like lurking in trees and stuff. I remember the sorrow. It was the sorrow because when I was walking through the forest, every oh my god. So I was trying not to kill people in my playthrough. I was trying to like be so stealthy. And every single character I was walking past are like, my neck, my throat. Because I I had the worst habit of every time I was trying to like go behind someone and like interrogate them, I just slit their throat and killed them. It was the worst habit and it was so hilarious. Like at that moment in the sorrow, and like when you're going through the river, everyone that you walk past who's dead is like, my throat, my neck, ah, because I sliced their throat. Because I couldn't get the grips. I couldn't get the grips of CQC. I couldn't get the grips of it, so I just kept slashing everyone's throat. I'm just like, what is happening? What's happening? So that was fun. I loved him. That was great. Obviously you had Adam, who was also a lot as well. That's still an incredible twist. But I remember so much from this game. I remember, being like, why has the boss defected? Why has this character that Snake looks up to is like essentially a mother figure defected against us? And the whole reveal. This is your mission. Kill me. Guys, I was sobbing for a whole hour. A whole hour I was sobbing because of how incredible this story was. And then everyone, even the voice memo at the end of the game where you're listening to the recorder and it's like she died a hero, but no one will know that because her story is now set up as her being a terrorist. We know the real answer of what happened and what went down, and nobody else knows that, and nobody else will see that. It's truly so heartbreaking. And everyone in that room, in that little room at the end, I think they were in the White House, they're awful people. They're awful. And they set this whole thing up because it was, oh my gosh, it was one of them. He was in 5. He was also in 5. What was his name? He messed everything up because he shot a missile. He shot a missile, I think, or a nuke. He shot missiles at another country. I think it was it Russia? He shot something and they needed to cover up quick. Volgan shot something and they needed to cover up quickly. So they had to send Snake on the mission. Be like, okay, we're taking care of them. And then obviously the boss pretend it was her and that she was a part of it. And for her to die. Oh, guys. Like Metal Gear Solid 3. So good. And then even Ocelot, getting to know Ocelot when he was so much younger, obviously because the game's like a full prequel where he's so playful, and then the whole reveal that he was actually Adam. I was like, damn, here's Eva, who's like, I thought that was Adam. Like, wow, that's such a like weird thing. And I can't believe they're switching it up and be like, oh, Adam's a woman, and then no, Adam is not a woman. Adam was there the whole time. That was such an incredible reveal, and like everything in the story is perfect. I actually cannot fault this game's story because everything makes sense. It's not an incredibly wavy line of video in later games. I kind of have a little bit of an issue with. Everything just makes sense. All the characters are likable. They're incredible. They have such a convincing backstory. They have really believable scenarios that they go through, and then you're feeling for every single one of them. You're fighting for every single one of them. Even some of the bosses themselves. They are all such an incredible characters, and they're so incredibly well written. And even all the codec moments where you're listening and having conversations about Hideo Kojima's favorite movies, and it was so great. This game is such an incredible experience, and I'm obviously going to put it in S rank above Metal Gear Solid because this game, in my opinion, it cannot be beaten. It's so incredible. I think people that are going to play Metal Gear Solid Delta are going to be able to experience such an incredible story because it's not aged. That's the thing. You can play it now and you'll still have such an incredible experience because the story hasn't like aged perfectly. It's not aged. It feels so fresh and it's so heart-wrenching. It's one of my favorites. I love it. And then we have Metal Gear Solid 4, which was a complicated topic for me a little bit to think about because I really liked the game, but there were moments where I was sitting here and I'm just like I'm like wow, that's so convoluted and complicated for no reason. It was I sat through Metal Gear Solid. I think that was one of my comments in Metal Gear Solid 4 was when I was sitting there. I'm just like, this is just so complicated, and for what? Like it's just so complicated, and like everything was a bit of a mess. I have to say, I think I was saying it. I was like, hey, right, we needed like someone to calm Hideo Kojima down with all these ideas. Because I personally felt like it was too much. They were trying to jam everything into one little jar, and I just felt like that jar spilled over a little bit and was a little bit messy. In terms of gameplay, it's solid. This is a great game to play. I love the mechanics. There's definitely a lot more. It is definitely more action. It's not stealth, really. It's not got any other elements of Metal Gear Solid 3 or 1 or just any of those games. It's definitely 100% more action, and you can tell it from the opening sequence of the game where you're literally in war. There is some stealth, but it is so much action. I did like the enemy, like the boss fight. It was like the octopuses. Like it was a bunch of obviously it was women, but they all had really severe trauma from the war. I think one of them was Raging Raven. I'm sure it was Raging Raven because I think Raging Raven was one of the first ones, I think, and then it was because the birds, when they went to go eat her, when she was meant to get eaten, instead they kind of freed her from her cell or like her shack, and then obviously she's just traumatized because everyone that she loves is dead. Like I love that whole idea of these are villains, but they have severe trauma and they're kind of just numb and they're just fighting you, and then when you fight them you break them. They're like completely broken. They cannot operate anymore, and that I felt like that was like quite devastating. It was quite a devastating story, and I did enjoy them. I'm sure I remember enjoying some of them were good, but then by like I think the third or fourth one, I'm just like, this is kind of samey, and then some of them like bullet sponges. Like I was just fighting them. I'm like, okay, you're taking a lot of bullets, and you're kind of similar. Like this is a similar like scenario. It was a little bit predictable in terms of the villains, and I didn't like that because I've never had an experience where the Metal Gear Solid franchise was predictable in that sense. I remember there was a lot of closure for some like legacy characters like Eva. We saw her die after. I'm sure she died in the motorcycle. No, she didn't die in the motorcycle. Ocelot killed her. It was Ocelot that killed her. And I kept just standing there saying, "Why doesn't anyone shoot?" Like all these characters. I think old Snake, he was in so many scenarios where the villain was standing in front of him and he had an opening and he could have killed, and he just stood there and he didn't kill anyone. I'm like, you have so many opportunities to kill and you haven't. And then the reveal of, I think it was Big, no, it wasn't Big Boss. Big Boss shows up at the end. I'm having a bit of a brain fog around one of the characters because I'm sure they held they held someone. I'm sure it was like the leader of the Patriots or something. They held onto the body and like it was just organs. I'm sure it was just organs or something. But I'm having a bit of a brain fog and I can't remember it, so I'm gonna have to look back. Okay, hey, it's editing me. I'm jumping in here to discuss more to do with what I was trying to think of. Obviously, the body that died and it was used as a decoy, I feel like that's Big Boss, was Saul the Snake, the original clone. That's what I was getting confused with. Completely forgot that he was that, to be completely honest with you. I don't know what happened, I just had a blank. So yeah, obviously that's all the Snake that gets shot. Eva thinks it's Big Boss, so she kind of sacrifices herself to try and save him, and that didn't work out. I like that there was some closure at least for all of this, but I'm sure we killed him, and then they held on to his body to reproduce more snakes, basically, and like it was like a lab test in a way. So that's why they kept on to his body. Disturbing, but yeah, that's what happened. I think that's the part that I was forgetting who that was. I was like, someone was there, someone was on that boat. It was Saul the Snake from Metal Gear Solid 2, the one that Raiden killed. So yeah. But they had a lot of closure for a lot of the characters, and then Ocelot, of course, having to fight Ocelot as Old Snake. Insane. And then Big Boss showing up at the end to be like, hey, here's the person that done it. And then it's Zero, which I have no opinions on Zero, really. I know that you're like, he's Major Tom, so obviously you know him well in Metal Gear Solid 3, but in terms of making me believe that he's such a massive villain and that like he's behind everything and he's done all of this awful stuff, but I've not seen any of it happen. Like, to be such a like very predominant, like a predominant character in the franchise and yet not see him is it's quite difficult. I feel like he's a really disappointing character to kind of experience as a villain because he's not the, and I guess that's what they're going for, is that like he's not there, but he's an awful person. But I'm sitting there like, I really don't have feelings towards you because, like, yeah, sure, we saw each other in the 3, but I know you're awful because you did you helped create the whole story of the boss defecting. But I'm sorry, I don't know what you want me to say, to be honest. I'm just like, okay, you're the villain, I guess. I didn't really have many thoughts on Zero, which is probably why my ending on Metal Gear Solid 4 was kind of neutral. I finished the game and people were like, oh, you cried at 3, wait till you get to the end of 4. And I got to the end of 4 and I'm just like, okay. And I think the only part that I cried at was the part with Jack getting to live with Rosemary, and I think I'm sure that they had a child. And that was the only part of the game that I cried at, because I'm like, Jack got a happy ending, because that's literally all, like, after the hell that he went through in this game, he got ripped to pieces in this game. I was so happy that he lived, and I cried. I think that was the only point in the game that I cried, was the fact that Jack got a happy ending. And then I'm sure I remember questioning and being like, why am I crying for Jack? I've played him like twice. I played him once or twice, and that was it. It was shocking to me that I really developed with Jack, but Metal Gear Solid 4, there was just so many moving parts, and I'm going to be fully honest. I struggled to catch up and keep up with everything. I loved reuniting with Meryl and Naomi, and I'm glad that Emmerich and Naomi had a little moment with each other and they're like, I love you, Anna. I love you too, la, la, la. All that stuff. That's great. I'm glad. But I personally, I personally just thought it was too ambitious. I think ambitious is the correct term. I felt like it was just too ambitious for what it wanted to do, and it wanted to give me a closing, but I felt like I finished it. I'm just like, where, I guess that's my big ending, but I wanted a bigger ending, you know? There were elements I loved about the game. I did, like, genuinely love the gameplay. I loved the environment. I loved the graphics. The soundtrack was also quite great. But there were moments where I was just like, so they have a shop. I think it was Drebin. I did like his character. I loved everything that they did. But, like, I think that kind of ruined some things a little bit, because it did, at that point, feel more of an action game. I felt like I was playing this big action game instead of the stealth that I was used to. It was completely different. It mismatched with what I was used to playing. And it felt like they were just definitely going for a more action experience or action oriented type of game. And then, yeah, I think I remember I played it and I did love the boss fights, but I feel like they were so, like, I get that they were going for, like, all of them suffered PTSD, but it was a constant it was like PTSD is the main theme here, guys. Here you go. I'm like, oh, thanks. I do. I'm jumping in quickly. Here is editing me again. To discuss more of the theme of Metal Gear Solid 4, because I said it was like, oh yeah, it's the theme of PTSD. And I just said it and was like, yeah, that's it. But obviously there's so much more to Metal Gear Solid than what it is, because while the theme with a lot of the Beauty and the Beast, I'm sure the Beauty and the Beast theme, while they have a lot of severe PTSD, it also reflects how a war can change an individual, so it can take basically the human out of them and turn them into a monster in a way. And that's what the, like, Beauty and the Beast is, that you fight their first stage, which is their beast, and then underneath is the beauty, which is obviously what their life was like before, during the war, and why they participated in the war, that is a main theme. That is a bigger theme. It's not just PTSD. I said that stupidly. There's a full theme of, like, this is what war does to the human being, and, like, does to a whole person's mind. It completely destroys it and turns them into this monster and this machine to be used for a war. So that is one of the themes of this game, with, of course, the underlying theme being kind of dying and what you're leaving behind in the world. I think by the end of the game, we know that Snake was deteriorating. So we've been fighting throughout the whole game for a cause, and Snake was given more time. So while his genes were literally deteriorating and he was crumbling, he was losing his humanity. He's been given this extra time to make some more memories and to finally like live his life while he's still on the planet and still has that time to live his life, whether it be a year, 2 years, a month, a few months. He now has that time to live his life and finally live a life that's not just war and like it's just he has that little opportunity to kind of breathe and make a few memories while he still can. Um, so I know that was one of the things. I'm sure I'm missing something though. I mean, I want to make sure I discuss everything before I forget something. Obviously, there's several themes here as well. Like, there's so many things that you could talk about. For example, how Fox Die was used as a digital injection for all the soldiers to use, and as soon as someone found a breach in that, it affected the whole. It affected every single soldier. Every single soldier was suffering on the battlefield whenever I think it was Ocelot could decide because they found that little hack in the Fox Eye. So obviously, it's about there's a theme with that. There's so many themes with this, but I think the bigger takeaway was the fact of war can absolutely destroy the human brain, the human body, and obviously Snake was given some extra time to live. Um, so he can make some more memories while this new age takes over, which was Meryl. Meryl was the new age that was taking over the war in the battlefield. Um, Snake was there, of course, but Meryl was kind of her whole group was helping take over. Um, and obviously Hal was there, Raiden was there, and then Sunny was kind of being brought up to be the newer generation of Emmerich, or not Hal, sorry, Emmerich. I'm sure it's Emmerich or Hal, one or the other. It's not Huey. Fuck you. It's not Huey. Um, but yeah, obviously Sunny was going to be brought up to be the newer, like the kind of better Emmerich because of just how smart she was. She was genuinely so smart. So there's obviously this new age that was going to be taking over, and that's kind of what happens in Metal Gear Solid 4. And we never see that in any future games, of course. But well, except from Revengeance. But yeah, that was a better discussion on the themes instead of me just being like, guys, it's PTSD. There was so much more to what I was meant to say, and I didn't say it correctly. I get that everyone has their backstory, but it did get a little bit repetitive with a lot of the Beauty and the Beast squad. It was great. I loved a lot of their designs, and every single one of their stories was incredible. But it did feel a little bit repetitive. So I think that's all that I can describe of Metal Gear Solid 4. Again, great designs. Loved that Raiden was a badass with a sword and a cyborg. It was devastating. It was actually heartbreaking to know what he went through and why he was like that. My heart sank when I was learning all of it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, they really screwed him over after two. Um, and after obviously what he learned about the Patriots. Um, but it was devastating. But I loved it. Loved every minute of it. Um, I had something else I was going to say, but I forgot because I was discussing Raiden. I think it was great, but it was after playing three, my expectations were really high, and I think that's something that affected my perception of what the game was. So, if I were to rank it, I'd probably. The game definitely had a great ending. It definitely did. Because I was a little like it was a little bit tough. Like it was definitely like, oh, this is like, because obviously Snake literally had to die. Or I think he could get away with living for a little bit because he had a new fox dye injected, but the one that he had could have spread, and I think that was what that was. Like it could have spread out because he was injected with like a really bad fox dye. I also loved the Emmerich's kids. I remember her Sunny. She was because she was going to be really smart. Um, because obviously she had Olga as her mum. I'm gonna put it A. I think I'm confident with putting Metal Gear Solid 4 as an A. I feel confident with that. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance was kind of a wild experience. um, It was definitely 100% the easiest game to sit through and play. I played it in a week. Um, it was very fun. It was very, very fun. But was it a good Metal Gear Solid game? Eh, it had the boss fights. Some of the boss fights were incredible. And it had that dynamic of like, oh, you've got like a rival that's kind of toying with you a little bit with Sam. And then obviously it had the big reveal of Armstrong being the main villain and fighting on top of Rex, and he's actually this very muscular cyborg. I'm sure he was a cyborg, wasn't he? Or was he like half cyborg? It was wild. It was insane. It was really insane. Um, but in Rising, like it's just so insane, and like it was difficult. I do struggle with a lot of high fast-paced action games, but this was definitely another level, and I actually can't tell you what happens in the story. I think you're getting revenge because obviously the president you're protecting died because he done a bad job, and you got sliced up. You got beat up and sliced, and you've almost, I'm sure you like almost died several times. Sunny makes a return in this game. um I'm sure Sunny makes a return, but I honestly, I'm struggling to remember what the point of it was. I'm sure it was, the main thing was that this organization was taking kids and turning them into cyborgs, which is something that Raiden has obviously went through because, well, he wasn't a kid, but he was turned into a cyborg, and that's kind of what they were doing with these children. So it was like really, it was a wild story, wild story. Um, but it was very much a spin-off, very, very, very much a spin-off. However, the gameplay and the music was incredible. This game and this franchise had very, very similar things in terms of the music, and it was incredible. That music was incredible. Other than that, I can't really tell you what happens in this game. Um, I just remember playing it and be like, "This is fun, yay!" And that's about it. I, that's really about it. I don't remember much of it. I'm so sorry. I remember the boss fight. Guys, I'll be so honest. I don't know. I did love the fact that we also had a pet dog. That was great. Um, but I'm trying to think what else. I really don't remember much. There was like a whole bunch of new characters that were introduced, but I don't remember any of them, which might be a bad thing. But I just don't remember any of the new characters that were introduced. I remember there was a kid that, I think Sunny, I kind of got attached to this new kid. But other than that, I'll be honest, couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what a lot of these characters were. The game was good. The gameplay was incredible. The story was incredible. Not incredible. I don't remember any of it. The gameplay was good. The music was good. It was very action oriented, and I did enjoy it. But if I was ranking it on a scale of a good Metal Gear Solid game, it's simply not a Metal Gear Solid game. It's Metal Gear Rising, and I'm basing this a lot on my opinions of the story and how much I remembered and what I enjoyed. I'd actually have to put this at an C. I think because the soundtrack and the gameplay is great, the story just didn't click with me, and it didn't leave a mark on me, so I didn't care too much for it. So Metal Gear Rising, the quickest segment and the quickest discussion in this video. Fine. Up next, Peace Walker. This game, I played it on PlayStation 3 because I didn't want to emulate the PSP version. So I played it on PlayStation 3, and this was an experience. It was definitely designed for the PlayStation P. The PSP, sorry, the PlayStation P. It's a PlayStation Portable, dumbass. It's a PSP. It was definitely designed for the PSP. A lot of this game is the story is told through the comic style, which at first is like, wow, this is cool. But then I found myself sitting through it, I'm like, I don't know, like it works so well on a handheld, but when I'm playing through it, I'm just a little bit conflicted because I just like, However, the game does have it does have a great story. I will say the story in this game is great. I remember it very well. It's basically um, an AI machine that is replicating the voice of the boss, or is making everyone believe that the boss is actually still alive, when in fact it's like this AI machine. It's a Metal Gear. It was created by Doctor Strangelove and Huey, who oh this I have never been more annoyed at some fucking waste of space. This was the start of a downfall. I'm glad he drowns in Metal Gear Solid 2. I'll be fully honest. I'm glad he drowns because he's such an annoying character. But he's fine in this one a little bit. But I hate him. Still hate him. You have Doctor Strangelove. You have It's not Ocelot. It's Kaz. Kaz is in here, which is where we're introduced to Master Miller himself. He's in here. Um, so it it's like you're getting to know him, which he starts off so I don't like him in Metal Gear Solid 5, but he's really great in this game actually. And this game has some great elements. I'll be nice. Game does have some great elements. I do enjoy the soundtrack. I love cannot tell you how much I love the base building experience. It feels so satisfying. It's so great. It's so fun. I felt really engaged the whole time. It was really, really fun to play and build my base. I had a lot of fun building my base. I was playing a lot of the side missions trying to like get everything done, and I really, really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy building my own base. I thought it was great fun. Um, the story, I do actually really enjoy the story. The story was really good. It stuck with me. The story did stick with me. Um, I really enjoyed the whole section with like obviously the AI singing, like actually like hemming, like humming. Is it was it were they humming it or were they singing? They were singing the song, the peace song. Um, and they drowned themselves. It was such a beautiful moment. And that's how the first act ended. And then obviously this game has its own twist as well with this was it Paz? Yeah, Paz. Paz being a big villain when she's just some sweet girl. No. Paz is a big villain. Even though she looks incredibly sweet, she's very nice, and obviously her big thing is like peace. She's a massive villain. Obviously the main villain of the game was it was V, the guy that was like V for Vendetta. He was the main villain, and he was fine. Don't really remember, I don't really remember much about it. um, I'm really trying here. I just think that it's so much better if I don't research because I want these to be my true opinions on the game. But yeah, he was fine, but Paz was obviously a big, massive villain who was obviously working with Skullface. Obviously, like Paz was working big time with Skullface, um, which we explore a lot in Metal Gear Solid 5. But Paz was a double agent, which is why they had that big moment. The one thing I really did not like about Peace Walker was the boss fight and Act 2, or was it Act 3? The final act of the game. I found that both of them were shit. The boss fights were lame, boring, not unique. It felt really horrible to fight these things. They were like, just here, fight a tank. And I was sitting through it, I'm like, this is not Metal Gear Solid. Like, where's my iconic boss fights? Why am I fighting a tank? Why am I fighting some big thing with a head again? It I was bored out of my mind with these boss fights. I thought they were lame. They were so lame. The designs were lame. Everything, like the boss fights sucked. It really brings this game down for me big time because it could be perfect, but fighting those bosses sucked so much. It was so boring. And then having to grind these missions to be able to build Metal Gear Rex to get the final arc of the game. It was boring. It was so boring. I was so bored by the end of it. I just wanted it to be done. So I done a lot of it off camera because I didn't want to keep recording it because I was genuinely sitting here like I was so bored of the game by the end of the and I'm pretty sure I said it's like I'm happy it was over because this was a good experience, but then I got to the end of it and I was bored. It was just it had so much great potential, but it was so grindy and boring, and the boss fights sucked. I had no motivation to play the harder missions or like the extremes, or I had no motivation to play some of those missions because it did suck. I enjoyed the deployment missions actually, where you deployed teams and they done missions for you, and you watch them fight like other teams. I thought that was great, but guys, Peace Walker, like I will say the end section sucked, and it's not really worth it either. Wasn't really that worth it. Like, sure, yeah, you fight Paz, um, but I'm just like, you could have had that a little bit closer. You had, I didn't want to grind for it. Didn't want to grind for it. So I don't think there's much I can say on Peace Walker other than like it was great to have that whole development of Miller and Paz and Chico and a lot of these characters. However, it was really the thing that let it down the most was very linear stages, very linear design. Obviously designed for PSP, but it was just very toned down. The boss fights sucked, and the end section really let it down. I think I'm going to have to give it a C. The music and the story can only do so much for this game. I just personally think that the gameplay really lets it down on being a really solid Metal Gear Solid title. Been yapping for like an hour and 20 minutes. I needed some juice. I was so parched, and like yapping for so long without a script is so difficult. We have two more games to discuss. I hope my thoughts have made sense, but if they've not, I hope editing me has cleared up some confusion. But I'll not talk too much about Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, considering that they're both kind of connected in terms of gameplay and the music and the design. But it's definitely a really good opener to the whole arc of Metal Gear Solid 5. Um, you you didn't see me play it for the first time, but I explained that the game was free for PlayStation Plus, and I played the hell out of it. I was constantly playing this game, and I played it back to front. I know the story very well. Obviously, you're saving Chico, who had really who he gained a lot of sources and intel on Paz and whereabouts Paz would be. This is also kind of our main introduction to Skullface, who's kind of been lingering in Peace Walker, but he's really mainly he's really present throughout here. You really get the introduction of how messed up this man is through a lot of the audio tapes. I've listened to a lot of them. I watched them. But he's like a lot of the audio tapes are truly disturbing because this man is disgusting. He's probably I'd say he's definitely no, he's the most evil Metal Gear Solid villain there has been. Genuinely, with what he has done and every like the things that he's developed, he's the most evil, the most cruel, and he's definitely the I'd say with confidence this guy is the best villain there is in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Like all these villains are good, but this one is actually while Zero's great and all, this guy is really evil and got away. Well, not got away. Sorry, he accomplished a lot of evil shit. A lot. Skullface was messed up, but I really enjoyed what they done. we'll discuss that more in obviously 5. But we hear the assault that Paz goes through, and obviously, we save Paz. We get the bomb out of her, but it turns out there's another bomb planted deeper inside that she was like, I have to go. So she jumps out. A rocket launcher gets shot at the same time. Everything blows up, and that introduces us to the Phantom Pain. For this one, it's great gameplay wise and stuff. It's good. I'm just gonna put it at C because it's a demo and it's great. It's a great thing, but it's just it could have been in the main game. Could have been in the main game. I don't see. I think it was just like a little demo to see. It's like, hey guys, this is what we're doing. I hope you're excited. But I don't know. Actually, I think I'll put it B. I think B is more reasonable because I don't think it's on the same level as Peace Walker or Revengeance. Which leaves us with the Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. This game, I had several thoughts on it by the end of it. I obviously didn't share my final full thought of the game. There was a few tapes I was missing, but when I was listening to them, I was like, thank God I didn't react to this because it's a lot. There was a lot of silence. I wasn't like fully reacting to being like, oh my gosh. There was one tape where I was like, oh my gosh, what? You guys didn't see any of those tapes, but it was basically like Zero's involvement with this story. Obviously, when Snake and the this random dude is in a coma, the idea is Zero's idea to be like, right, to protect Snake, we'll make this guy believe that he is Snake. And that is so incredibly fucked up, by the way. It's so incredibly fucked up to manipulate this medic, this guy that signed up to be a medic, to make him believe that he is Snake. Which is insane, which links up to Metal Gear 1, which is what the guy that you fight at the end of the game in Metal Gear 1. He is the guy that you're playing as in Metal Gear Solid 5. It's an insane twist. And when it was revealed to me at the end, I was just like, that's fucked up. Like, I can't, like, the boss, I get what they're doing. It's like, you have to disappear, you're you're incredibly dangerous, you're getting hunted down, we'll handle it. He was just some dude. And I get that they were wanting to, like, yeah, we had his back, don't worry. But, like, this man, this medic, is getting hunted down because everyone thinks he's the boss. Meanwhile, the boss just goes away and does his own thing. I just think that in this light, like, obviously it is meant to be like that, but, like, the boss is a fucked up character to be willing to put just someone through that. I guess it's for the good of the mission and the good of the world, but it's so mentally damaging. But they don't care about the mental health of the character. They don't care about him at all. Obviously, it's Zero's idea to be like, okay, we'll just monitor him, and then Ocelot's looking out for me. And then that's why at the end, Ocelot and Miller, they kind of split into two because obviously they'll be fighting with each other, and at the end of it, they have to raise both snakes to kind of fight with each other, or like two different teams, which is why Miller has in Metal Gear Solid Metal Gear Solid 1, he has he has Solid Snake, and obviously you're fighting against like Ocelot. You're fighting against Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 1, which is why those two are now like not on speaking terms and they hate each other. It's a wild journey because obviously, like, as well, your character dies in Metal Gear 1. Like, the character you're playing as dies in Metal Gear 1 because he's fought by, I think he's fought by Solid, isn't he? He's fought by Solid Snake. So you fight as him. But I really enjoyed getting to know Ocelot as well. I really enjoyed getting to know a lot of these characters. Ocelot really grew on me. I really did really like Ocelot in this game. and I see where a lot of his perspective is and where it comes from in like the games. It was just great to know a lot of the backstory around them. I hated. I cannot tell you how much I hated Kaz, which I think is deliberate. I think you're meant to hate him because he he's designed in a way because he's filled with like grief. He'd lost everything. He's filled with revenge and anger, and he doesn't know where to put it. And I feel sorry for him in moments, but a lot of the time I'm just like, why are you being such a dick? Like that person literally helped us. Like Quiet, we'll discuss Quiet, but like Quiet helped us so many times. He's like, that bitch, kill her, Snake. She turned on us, kill her, Snake. When she didn't turn on us, there was a whole. We know what she was doing. I just didn't like Miller too much. In this game, compared to Peace Walker, I really liked him in Peace Walker, but I felt like the energy was. It wasn't. Obviously, it's not going to be the best. He's lost everything, which is how Metal Gear Solid 5 happens, is when Paz obviously jumps out the helicopter, everything explodes, we get put in a coma because we explode, and everything's a mess. Everything is a mess. And we have to start from scratch. We escape from a hospital. Someone's there with us, helping us escape. He has a great ass. Who do you think that is? I'm sure I called it. I don't know if I did call it, but I'm sure I remember commenting on it, being like, this has to be Snake or something, because obviously that the face is hidden for a reason. So you are with Snake at the start of the game, and he's sending you off. Well, he just disappears. Actually, he leaves you. He leaves you to die in an ambulance, so he can plan his escape. And then you start the game with Ocelot, which I really did love learning more about Ocelot. Ocelot was a great character. I really enjoyed Ocelot in this game. It was great. And then this game also introduces base building again, 10 times better than Peace Walker. I'm so happy with it. I remember the base building being there, of course, but it was so. I played a little bit of I played a little bit of Phantom Pain before, but I didn't play too much. I didn't have a clue what happened, and I didn't get far in the story. All I remember was the base building, and I loved the base building. It was so fun. Base building was really great in that game, actually. So it was one of my favorites. I enjoyed a lot of the things that they did with competing against other bases, fighting other bases, looting other bases. I thought that was great fun. And I really enjoy the base building element. I loved hiring my staff. I loved having the best kind of staff as well. And I'm sure you could improve some of their stats as well over time, which was great. It was a really great experience with the base building, and I really enjoyed it. Obviously, we learned at the very start of the game that Chico died, which was like insane. Chico was just a child, and for like to learn that he died in that explosion was devastating, truly and utterly devastating. Which brings us to Huey. Dr. Emmerich. Sure was Emmerich. Fucking dickhead for all I care. What a waste of space. Throughout this game, you just see him. Every time you see him, you're just like, what a sorry excuse for a human. Like, he's such a sad human being. I don't even know when we introduce him. I just want to rant about this man. This game makes you perfectly hate him. Meanwhile, it also makes you question what are they thinking? What is everyone on this base thinking? For real. If I was there, he'd be dead. He'd be dead. He was a sorry excuse for a man, and I was shocked they let him back into Mother Base. Like it's so obvious that he had planned for this mother base to get shut down and to get. He was planning for something else to happen in that inspection, but obviously it backfired and it was worse than what I think he. I didn't think he planned for it to be that big, but he was involved big time. Big time he was involved. He just didn't expect it to be that big. And everything comes in. He's alive and he's fine. He didn't get affected by this explosion. But then when you capture him, he's like, "No, I'll do anything. I was just held hostage because I had to build that for him. I was so scared. What about me? They were gonna kill me. Oh no." I'm like, fine, but don't let him back. And then they let him back. They let him back into Mother Base. I'm like, okay, guys, why? And then they gave him his own hat. He wasn't even in a cell. Quiet, who sure tried to assassinate us at the start of the game, had her own cell, was treated horribly by by Miller, by the way. Miller treated her horribly, and she's treated like horribly throughout the whole game by Miller, and like at least Ocelot's fine with her, but Miller was so awful to her, and yet he gave Ocelot so not Ocelot, sorry, Huey gave Huey so many chances when we all knew that he was a bitch ass. He was stupid. He was a waste of space, and we all knew that he was going to end up betraying us yet again, and he did betray us big fucking time by releasing an outbreak onto the mother base when we had just gotten rid of an outbreak. He had deliberately done it, and a lot of the time I'm just sitting here like, why are these characters so stupid? These are meant to be like really top knowledge, like these guys might have everything thought through, and yet they just let Huey get away with stuff until it gets too late. I think it gets to the point where it's too late. There's actions that are unforgivable. He has literally helped develop Sahelanthropus, an incredible machine that is it's quite deadly and quite dangerous to this world. And they let him off with that because he was scared for his. They let him off with it. They give him a hanger and they're like, make something for us. Like, make something for us. What? I think a lot of the characters in this game are quite fucking dense. They're quite stupid. And I'm really frustrated with a lot of the common sense in in the game, because with Quiet, Miller never trusts her. Meanwhile, yeah, Huey's got, like, sure, they're interrogating him through the game, but it's like, yeah, let Huey build this, and yeah, sure, let Huey bring Sahelanthropus back to Mother Base. I don't like Huey in this game, and I think a lot of the a lot of it's weird. A lot of it to me is just really weird. There's a lot of things in this game as well that aren't fully explained. For example, we don't really get to see what happens with the leader of the children. Or was it? It was a really. Sorry, I don't think it was American. It was British. British. Eli. So Eli, we don't really get much closure for Eli. He just disappears. Eli just disappears. They have this whole thing where he takes all the children with him, but then we don't get any closure from that at all. Um, they just vanish, and we don't go after them. It was really weird. I don't know. I think there was something that I meant to watch. However, it just Act 2 felt really weird. Act 1 of this game was great. I felt like it was like, wow, okay, this is what this is, and this is what's happening. And then I think you kill Skullface in Act 1, and Act 2 happens, and you're just like, oh, what's meant to happen here? Like, what's the story now? Because yeah, there's lots of loose ends, but the loose ends don't get tightened. They don't come round. The loose ends just are loose ends. Unless I have to read about it somewhere or something, but I was kind of shocked that it wasn't explained and the notes didn't explain it either. I listened to all the audio tapes, by the way. I have listened to all the audio tapes, and I don't recall anything closing out the ends of the game. Obviously, with I remember like it was shocking. Like there was the interview with Paz and Zero. I liked the interviews with Zero. It definitely helped me understand why Zero is definitely more of a villain, but in the background, he's kind of conducting everything. And there was a moment where I'm just like, wow, Zero is kind of fucked up. But I wish I knew that in Metal Gear Solid 4. And I wish I had more on Zero, because I really didn't have much of Zero, and I still didn't care too much about him other than him being like a background figure and all that stuff. Like, Zero's great as a background villain, but I want more. I want more from the villain of Zero. I want more from him. Um, and my favorite part of this game, actually, one of the best stories that's introduced and also concluded in this game is Quiet. Quiet is probably one of the best characters in Metal Gear Solid, that I have at least experienced. I was I was skeptical of Quiet. I had some background thoughts, I'll be fully honest. I thought Quiet would be, I think Quiet still is actually quite quite a sexualized character. I feel like it's Hideo Kojima's little fever dream, because we all know, if you've played a Hideo Kojima game, you know that Hideo Kojima loves his feet. Hideo Kojima is definitely, he definitely loves that idea of representing the sexuality of women, and I'm pretty sure I was pretty happy with some of the sexualization of the men in 5. I was happy with what was happening sometimes. I'm sure there was a few moments where Snake was like ass out and everything. I was happy with that, and I commended him for that. I was like, you know what? Thank you for sexualizing the men. I don't have an issue with you showing me the women as well. Then I guess. Um, but Quiet was definitely incredibly sexualized. I get that the whole point of her was clothes are suffocating her. She can't wear any clothes, so we have to have her naked. Oh, I listen. You can write it as well as you want, but I just know you wanted a lady running about in her brand underwear, which is fine because Quiet is an incredible character. Quiet is incredibly well written. Quiet, you really feel for Quiet, and then you're like, oh my god, get that bag off of her. She's suffocating. Get that clothes off of her. She's suffocating. Like, you definitely, you feel for Quiet a lot, and she has one of the best stories. And the moment she speaks, oh guys. So I was a little bit confused when that happened, because I'm like, she's speaking right now. Doesn't that mean that we're getting infected? Her speaking activated it. So after that, she left because she's like, I've activated it. I have to leave now. I cannot be here because if I'm here, you'll die. Even if she like didn't speak, I think it still transmit. And the fact that, oh my god, her audio tape was so incredible. It just like described her life, and the fact that yes, she was an assassin, but she wanted to fight for the right side, and she was infected with this strain for the whole purpose of killing all of Mother Base, and yet she actually detected the first member that was infected, and that's why she was trying to stab him in the mouth, because obviously the plague, she saw the plague, she saw all the plagues in their mouth, so she was like attacking these people. People were like, she's crazy, she tried to kill me, when no, he had the plague, and then obviously Miller tortured her with salt water, dickhead. He's such a dick. Oh my god, I hate Miller so much. They're like, he tortured her with salt water, so we had to save her, but she still didn't speak. because she knew that if she spoke, she'd kill them. He's like, she was literally saving everyone's life, and everyone was hating her, everyone was scared of her, everyone was worried about what she'd do, when in reality, she was the biggest. He had the most common sense out of all this team, all these men, all these moving parts, and she was the smartest one out of all of them. He was smarter than Miller. Was she smarter than Ocelot? Maybe. Maybe. I think Ocelot gave Huey too many chances. He's in like bad book. Everyone who gave Huey chances in my bad books. I think Quiet's really well written, and her exit, the quiet exit, was so like that was actually the one point in the game where I actually got upset. I wasn't upset throughout the whole game, believe it or not, but that moment, the quiet exit, was the moment where I was actually quite upset. I was like, "Wow, you're like such an incredible character." And then Quiet Song, oh, Quiet Song is so good. Honestly, Quiet was the best addition to Metal Gear Solid 5. Really loved her as a character. Loved the character big time. Um, Trying to think who else. Obviously, Eli was there. He was just, he, from what I've heard, he Liquid Snake. I guess because he's always like father. Oh, he sees Big Boss as a father when Big Boss isn't his father. But well, I mean, obviously, I wasn't his father in Metal Gear Solid 5. Big Boss fucked off, and he thought I was Big Boss. But he's like father. So obviously, he's a Liquid Snake, but that's such a it's like such a weird thing. Obviously, and that's why our DNA test didn't come back correct. He was like, "Yeah, the DNA test has come back. You're not his dad," because obviously it's not our DNA. We're not Big Boss. Of course, it's not Big Boss's DNA in his like. Of course, we're not. Of course, he's not my child because I am not Big Boss, which is why that was kind of shocking. It's like, oh my god. So they're like they kind of gaslit him a little bit. It's like that's not your son, by the way. And then he obviously told. I don't know if they would have told Eli. It's like Eli, he's not your dad. Do one. Obviously, he knows his dad is Big Boss. It was kind of just wild, but we didn't get a lot of conclusion from that. We didn't get a whole explosive reaction for that. They just vanished. Um, Huey, I get that he had to stay alive for the purpose of Metal Gear Solid 2, but if I could change the future, he would go out in the most brutal way in this game. I know I've ranted a lot about his character already, and I'll leave it at that. I truly hate. I feel like Huey was such a massive villain to me in this game, bigger than Skullface. Every time Huey spoke, I'm like, oh. I'm sure I skipped his cutscenes as well a few times because I don't care for Huey, and he's such a horrible character. He's so awful, and I hate it that everyone gave him a second chance, especially with oh, Miller. Miller, I get that he was angry. I get why he would done all that, but I really didn't like the way that he treated everyone. The way that he treated everyone, he was so disrespectful towards my choice as Big Boss. I'm Big Boss. Obviously, he probably knew that I wasn't Big Boss, but I'm Big Boss, and he's disrespecting me. I'm supposed to have Quiet on the team, and he's disrespecting me. The nerve. And then obviously, the big outbreak. That was quite quite intense to deal with. I won't lie. It got to that outbreak, and I was scared to play the game. So I didn't play. I didn't do any of the side stuff. I didn't do any of the side stuff until I finished that main section of the game. So I had to keep recording and recording because I'm like, I have to get through this, guys, because I want to play this game, but I can't because I might lose my friends, I might lose my team members, and I'm losing my mind. It was genuinely quite scary to play through, and I loved it, but I did like the outbreak was quite difficult to understand. And then when you understand it, you feel so smart. But when I done it, maybe it was my fault. I think I saved like when I was out on missions, I think I brought back a few people, which was my big issue because you're not really meant to bring back people. They're an outbreak, so you're kind of infecting them and getting the whole team infected. And I was still losing so many people, but I'm sure I done it right. and I guessed the correct language. I had my notepad. I wish I had it, but I was taking so many notes. I'm like, how do I figure this out? Because obviously it's that reason that they're infected. But it was quite wild. It was actually quite wild. But I really really enjoyed my time with it. I enjoyed the outbreak, even though how heartbreaking it was, and obviously, like you're killing your team. I was the I didn't hesitate to kill my team. I killed them too early. Apparently, failed the missions. um, it was the outbreak was really fun to experience, but definitely heartbreaking, and it was a wild journey. And yeah, Paz as well. Paz was confusing because I'm like, you're dead. Why are you here? And then I guess it was just a way of us trying to deal with the PTSD from that fight or that experience of losing Paz. But then technically it wasn't our experience, and then it was our experience because we're the medics. We were like up in there already, so it was our experience, and that's what we experienced. It was just weird, and I guess I don't know. It was just a bit weird. I guess it was a closure for Paz, but I maybe a closure for Chico would have been better because Chico was literally a kid who. I mean, I think Paz was a child as well, but Chico literally died as a child on the battlefield because he blew up on that helicopter. I don't know. I didn't care too much about Paz. I think he included it in the ending, but I didn't care too much about Paz. Um, and I think that's all the opinions I have of Metal Gear Solid 5 in terms of what was happening in the ending. I think the ending could have been a lot better. I'll be fully honest. I didn't enjoy the conclusion of the story. I felt really displeased with how it ended and how it kind of closed that book of Metal Gear Solid because essentially this is the last entry of the game. This is the last entry of the franchise. This is the closing book. And I think Hideo Kojima's great at storytelling, but for the final chapter of the game, he was too ambitious and he could have definitely dialed a lot of it down. He has a trend of turning it up full and just letting it go what crazy when he should have kind of dialed it back and gave a nice conclusion where it feels like the book has closed on this franchise and it feels like it's a great place to leave it because it didn't feel like a proper conclusion. And I get that Konami, I get that there was a lot of development hell in this game. I get that. However, Hideo Kojima does not help himself with how ambitious he is with a lot of his projects. Sometimes he's overly ambitious, with this game being overly ambitious. The ending sucked. I'll be really guys, I didn't like the ending. I really just it left such a sour taste in my mouth. I'm like, oh. So I wasn't the boss this whole game. I was just some random person who was manipulated into believing he's the boss. But I feel like everyone who agrees to do this is fucked up. Like the boss is fucked up, and I don't think Miller knew actually. I think he was like shocked that this happened. But you know, he was betrayed. He was so pissed off. He was so betrayed that the boss. He was like the boss doesn't like me. That's not the boss in there. I can't believe this. Ocelot's fucked up for agreeing to let it happen, and obviously meet with Zero. Zero has a connection with Snake, obviously, so he didn't want Snake to go through and like die, I guess, and get hunted down. So that's why he created that plan because Zero has that weird connection with him. Zero's like Hale's friend, and he was trying to talk to him while he was in the coma, but obviously he didn't get a response. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is I didn't like the ending too much. Too much of the ending happened in audio tapes, and I'm glad that the audio tapes were there. I think that was much better than the codec, to be honest, because it was more easier to manage what I've listened to and everything I need to listen to. However, too much of the ending happened in audio tapes, and I just I'll be honest, the ending was a letdown, and it was probably one of the weakest endings of this franchise. So, with that being said, well, Metal Gear Solid 5 Matter. While Metal Gear Solid 5 was a great experience, it was not a good closer to the Metal Gear franchise. And I'm unsure where I'd rank it. Where would I rank it? If we look here, I like thinking of it. I don't want to put up an A. I don't think it's an A. I think it is just more B tier. I'll be honest. I think it is more B tier. It just leaves too many open ends for a game that's closing. However, the soundtrack incredible and the gameplay is incredible. This is one of the best stealth games ever. The mechanics, everything. It's an incredible stealth game. It's incredible mechanics and everything. However, the story lets itself down, and I can't put it an A or an. It wasn't going to be an S rank anyway, but I can't put an A just because the story and it's a bit of a letdown. The story is a bit of a letdown, which is why I'd put it a B. And this is my ranking of Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid 3 is first, Metal Gear Solid 1 is second, Metal Gear Solid 4 is third, Metal Gear Solid 5 is fourth, Metal Gear Solid 2 is fifth, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Ground Zeroes is sixth, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is seventh, Metal Gear Peace Walker is eighth, and Metal Gear is ninth in final place. And that is my ranking of the franchise. Again, I started this franchise in 2020 and now we're in 2025 and I did finally finish the game back in March, I'd want to say. It's been a long journey and I'm sad that it's over, but I'm really glad that I've gotten through them because I was worried that I wouldn't get through the games. I was worried that I wouldn't finish them, and then I was kind of worried that I wouldn't get through to see the final game, and it turns out I did. And I'm glad I'm glad that you guys supported the series. I'm glad you guys really enjoyed the series. It's definitely one of the most viewed and most interactive series that I have on the channel, and I had a great time. Thank you for the support. I hope this video has been a good conclusion to viewers for the franchise who's watched the series on my channel. I hope it's been a good conclusion for you. If you have any opinions, or if you have anything that can clear up my opinions on this game, actually, let me know. Thank you guys for supporting. I really appreciate it. Maybe one day we'll play Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta. Metal Gear Solid Delta or whatever it's called. Maybe one day we'll play that. Maybe we'll play Metal Gear 2 or Metal Gear Survive. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.